Hi, buddy. Oh, thank you. Are you gonna lay down? I feel like my shirt is relevant with this. Hey, I'm here to tell you about how I became the queen of the weebs. So, kind of a couple of things for a little bit of a backstory. First, I was basically like a second generation weeb. Still very weeby, I promise you. The first generation of weebs were basically like young adults who somehow acquired anime through great effort in the 80s, and the internet didn't exist yet. How did you get this magical thing? Second generation weeb was being a kid when Toonami happened. Toonami and WB Kids. I was in 4th grade when Pokemon exploded, and you better freaking believe that I was just crazy about Pokemon. I always liked the electric Pokemon. I kind of have a thing for Jolteon. These are my Pokemon cards. This should give you a good reference to the time when I made this binder. I added this back in 2011. Anyways, tangent aside, every morning it was Pokemon, Monster Rancher, and Digimon. After school, it was Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Cowboy Bebop, Tenchi Muyo. It was Toonami. And I think that's basically what a second generation weeb is. I also was the oldest of my friends. Throughout my entire life, I've had probably 3 or maybe 4 friends who were older than me. I was always the oldest. I was usually the one in charge. My friends would look to me to figure out what we were going to do today, or like everybody would come to my house to play video games. I got a job first when I was 15, and so when I first started getting money, I spent every single paycheck of mine on manga, and so I had a library, and all of my friends would come to me to borrow manga. That's just kind of how I grew up. I just sort of naturally started developing like into a leader. When I finally got to high school, I found out that they offered Japanese classes. Hold on. Are you telling me I can learn how to speak Japanese? A person is going to teach me. Magic Knight Rayearth actually has a very, very warm place in my heart because that was where I first started speaking my Japanese. And no, it wasn't incredibly useful, but I started kind of learning what some words were. I was the biggest weeb in the world. That is a picture of me at my first convention. I am dressed as Aerith from Final Fantasy VII. I'm wearing a Naruto headband, holding a Kyo plushie, and I'm doing the can-can. I didn't hear the word weeaboo until I think I was in my 20s. I wasn't a weeaboo, I was an otaku. Back when I was in high school, we didn't have the word weeaboo yet. Otaku was the word we used. And in Japan, otaku is basically weeaboo. You don't want to identify as an otaku when you're in Japan. But here in the States, if you were an otaku, that meant that you were one of the people who watched anime, and that you knew what anime was. When you found out someone else was an otaku, it was like, my people! I found out that there was a Japan Club, which all of the language classes had their own clubs. Like, there was a French club, there was a German club, there was a Latin club, and there was a Japan club. You better friggin' believe I was all about that. I was like, okay, please sign me up. Who do I talk to? What do we do? I don't really care. Whatever it is, I must have more of it. Japan Club was run by a senior, and he had been running it for the last, like, 3 years or something. And, he was really sad that he was going to be graduating because he couldn't do Japan Club anymore. I jumped on that shit. I could be vice president. You could kind of teach me how to president so that, when you're gone, somebody will know what to do. And he was like, all right, sure. It really wasn't... What did we do in the first year? But my sophomore year, I stepped up to the plate and I said, yes, I will be the president of the Japan Club. I basically turned it into Weeaboo Hour. We just weebed out. And I was the leader of the weebs. I actually put together a miniature convention. And 47 people showed up to my house over a period of like 8 hours. So I didn't have 47 people here the whole time. I think at one point we did have 27, but we did have some people come in for an hour and then leave. I decked my whole house out, an anime viewing room, game room. We had the PlayStation 2, the GameCube, I think a Nintendo 64. Then we had a cosplay contest. It was like, I took my limited anime convention experience and I was like, I'm gonna do that myself. It was awesome. It was an experience. Closing ceremonies was watching Advent children in the living room with like 19 high schoolers. Advent children had just come out. I bought the DVD off of eBay from China. Instead of just quietly watching it, I decided that I wanted to really hype everybody up. I wanted everybody to have an experience while they were watching it. So I hooted and hollered at every exciting moment, and that just made everybody hoot and holler at every exciting moment. And that was like 9 o'clock at night. My mom used to go to bed fairly early because she had a really, really high-stress job. And the next day she had a conversation with me. I was the kind of kid who would take her friends to the mall and just scream sing anime openings with everybody without even caring about what people around us thought. Once I grew up and realized that weebs and otakus are very socially unconscious and they don't notice how annoying they are, I realized that I hated that part of my life. I was like, I cannot believe I didn't even notice how goddamn annoying I was. If you were a nerd, it wasn't cool yet. In my 20s, I went through a phase where I really, really cared about what people thought of me. This is a t-shirt that I painted with 2 characters that I made. It's absolutely covered in holes everywhere because my rabbit chewed on it. And I didn't want to throw it away, not only because I painted it, hand painted it, but because I loved my rabbit and I found that endearing. My mom reminded me through a conversation when I was looking back at how I used to be and how I used to dress. There was a lot of shame that I felt because it was like I realized how awful and ridiculous I looked, and I said to her, like, I can't believe I didn't notice how stupid I looked and how stupid I was acting. I can't believe I didn't notice that. And she said, I think you knew. You just didn't care. And that hit me because I remember being really happy. I wore my personality on my sleeve, that's for sure. Once I started thinking about what other people thought of me, I wasn't me anymore. I hid me. I'm not as outwardly weeby as I used to be. I'm not socially annoying anymore. I'm a little bit more socially conscious, but it's just not fun hiding who I am. A lot of people are intimidated by that, I think. But I also think a lot of people find it endearing. If anybody out there is really self-conscious about being you, fuck that. It's so much more fun to be yourself. It feels awesome. People's opinions really don't matter. Now, I'm not saying that it's totally okay to go to the mall and scream sing anime openings. But if you want to wear a shirt that you hand painted your own characters on that have holes in it because your beloved rabbit chewed them, then goddammit, do it. Anyways, I just kind of thought I would talk about how I became the queen of the weebs. Next time I'll talk about when I was in a cosplay acting troupe that traveled to different conventions. Anyways, ciao!